this political fantasy of separation.
From Edmonton to Ottawa, a war of words over Alberta separation. Chiefs and politicians alike fuming over news separatist leaders have met with U.S. government officials in Washington.
There can be no decisions about Alberta separating without consultation and consent of our First Nations.
I know this video is going to get clipped. I know people are going to twist it. But I'm going to say it anyways, because this whole conversation around Alberta independence and First Nations chiefs has turned into a complete disaster. And I'm tired of people acting like regular Albertans aren't even allowed to talk about their own future. Let me be very clear before someone runs with a 10-second clip of this video. This is not me going after First Nations people. I am First Nations. My family is tied to this history. So don't play that game with me. This is about chiefs playing politics. And when chiefs step into politics, they can be criticized like every other politician. That's the part people don't want to admit. A chief is a leader, yes, but a chief is also a political figure. So if they go to the media and make political statements, throw around heavy accusations, and try to scare people away from supporting Alberta independence, then people are allowed to respond. That's not racism. That's debate. And honestly, this idea that First Nations chiefs have a veto over Alberta's future is absolutely insane. Treaties matter. Consultation also matters. First Nations people absolutely matter. But that does not mean Albertans lose their right to vote. That does not mean chiefs get to stand in front of a camera and say, nope, discussion over, you're treasonous. That's not how democracy works. And I think a lot of people know that, but they're scared to say it because the second you touch this subject, someone tries to label you. That's how they shut the conversation down. They don't want to debate Alberta independence. They don't want to explain why Ottawa is somehow still the best option. They just want people scared. That's the game, and I'm not going to play it. Here's what blows my mind. The Crown and Canada have failed First Nations people for generations. That's not some wild statement I'm making. That is the actual history. Canada made promises. Canada broke promises. Canada controlled reserves. Canada controlled status. Canada controlled the money. Canada controlled movement. And Canada controlled the children. And now some of these chiefs want to stand there and act like Ottawa's the protector. Come on. Ottawa has had over 150 years to get this right. Look around. Does it look like they got it right? So why is it so crazy to say Alberta could maybe do better? Why is that not allowed to be part of the conversation? Why can't Alberta sit down with First Nations people and say, okay, Canada failed. Let's build something better. That should be the conversation. But instead, we get threats, we get fear, we get people acting like Alberta independence means the treaties disappear overnight and everyone just gets steamrolled. That is fear politics. And quite frankly, it's lazy. If the argument against Alberta independence is strong, then make the argument. Don't hide behind buzzwords. Don't act like every Albertan who wants a vote is some terrible person. And don't pretend chiefs speak for every single First Nations person in this province. Because guess what? Newsflash, they don't. I know First Nations people who see right through this. They know when something has become political. They know when regular people are being used as props. And they know Ottawa has not been some hero in their lives. That's the part the media won't show you. They'll show the chief at the podium. They'll show the big dramatic statement. They'll show the outrage. But they won't show the regular people sitting at home wondering why their community is still struggling while politicians keep getting richer, louder, and more powerful. That's what bothers me. Regular people always getting screwed. First Nations people getting screwed. Albertans getting screwed. And the same political class keeps winning. So no, I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is all about protecting the treaties. If it was really about protecting the treaties, where was this energy for the last century of Canada breaking them? Where was this energy when Ottawa failed community after community? Where was this energy when regular First Nations families were asking for better? But now Alberta starts talking about its future and suddenly everyone is ready to fight? That's interesting timing. And again, before the usual people start crying in the comments, I'm not saying treaties don't matter, because they do. I'm saying treaties should not be used as a political weapon to silence Albertans. There's a huge difference. Alberta independence does not mean First Nations people just vanish. It does not mean treaty rights are gone. It does not mean Alberta gets to ignore history. It means there would have to be a serious conversation, an actual real one, not Ottawa's fake version, not the media's panic version, a real conversation between Alberta and First Nations people about what the future actually looks like. And maybe that scares the chiefs who are comfortable with the current system. I wonder why. Maybe that scares Ottawa as well. Maybe that scares the people who have built their entire political power around keeping everyone divided. But guess what? It doesn't scare me. I think Alberta can do better. I think First Nations people can get a better deal. And I think Albertans are allowed to vote on their future without being threatened into silence. That's what this really comes down to. Do Albertans have the right to decide their future or not? Because if the answer is yes, then stop acting like one group of political leaders gets to shut the whole thing down. And if the answer is no, then just say that. Say you don't believe Albertans should have a voice. Say you don't trust people with democracy. Say you only support a vote when you already like the outcome. Because that's what this really looks like. And I'm done pretending otherwise. Chiefs can have their say. First Nations people, well, they can have their say. Independent supporters can have their say. Federalists can also have their say. And then Albertans can vote. That's how this is all supposed to work, ladies and gentlemen. Not threats, not fear, not media stunts, not calling people traitors, not hiding behind history while ignoring the parts of history that made Ottawa look bad. So here's where I stand. Respect the treaties, respect First Nations people, respect Alberta voters as well. And guess what? All three can be true. But no, Chiefs do not get a veto over Albertans having a democratic conversation. And no, Ottawa does not own Alberta. Also, no, I'm not going to shut up because someone might clip this video to make me look bad. If you agree, share this, because a lot of people are absolutely thinking it, and people need to see this. They're just scared to say it out loud. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, Ottawa doesn't own us. Wear it with me. Get yours. Support independent media. BertaProudDad.com.